Hey guys, how's it going? Video is going to be like one part a community update and one part kind of my prediction for DragonX in the bull market. I know people are asking me, what can DragonX do? Can it do a 10x from here, 100x? Could it do 50x? So we're going to go over that. We're going to go over why I think DragonX is awesome. And I guess we can go over a little bit about DragonX stuff too, But first, we should probably start with Ethereum, right? I've made a couple videos now that talk about Ethereum, where I think it could go, where I think the price could go. Ethereum right now is not even at all-time highs adjusted for inflation. So in that sense, it's still pretty low compared to what it could be. You have to think, like, for example, where is the money going to go when treasuries come on chain? Right? Where is the money going to go when people want to put entire apartment buildings on chain? They're going to bring it to Ethereum because they don't want to put it on some L1 that has 20 million in funding, because it could just go bust, right? The entire team could just decide to go work on something else. It's not proven. But Ethereum is proven. And Ethereum has proven itself over the past 10 years, right? That's why we chose to build, DragonX on Ethereum, as opposed to other chains that were new, like Pulse Chain. And I think it's a good choice. And so institutions are going to be adopting Ethereum for the same reasons that great DeFi builders adopted Ethereum, for stable coins, for treasuries. And you're going to see Ethereum thrive and grow, and it's at least going to go back to all-time high, which is 5,200. Now you have analysts like, Benjamin Cohen and others saying that it's going to top out at 7,500 or something like that. And we might see a dip around that point. It's definitely possible, but I don't think that it ends there. There's a bunch of Ethereum kind of treasury companies coming in. And these treasury companies, they have huge amounts of money, and they're connected directly to global financial markets into the Wall Street, click, and they're buying Ethereum like crazy, and they already have. So they're making a big bet on Ethereum, and it's a lot bigger than prior cycles in terms of adoption. This is kind of like the final true institutional adoption wave that will basically make crypto into a mainstream asset, right? So I think that Ethereum goes a lot higher, and yeah, there might be a dip around 7,500 or something, but overall, Ethereum could definitely hit 10 or 15K this cycle, or even more. One of the things I've mentioned in prior videos is how the government is using stablecoins as a way to basically, create treasury demand, and they need assets to be, crypto assets specifically, to be a lot higher for that. So it's not really in the government's plan for there to be a quick bull market and then a bear market after that. And then Bitcoin stops pumping because they need that Bitcoin demand to boost treasury demand so that they continue to print money, because we're in a population decline, and we're in a growth decline, and there's not a lot of buyers left for US government debt. So that stablecoin narrative is going to play out, and it's probably going to play out mostly on Ethereum. I think there's about 230 billion in stablecoins right now on Ethereum. That will probably 10x over the next, say, 5 years. You might have a small bear market for 1 year, 1.5 years between now and then. But we're here for the long term, right? We're not here to just sell and run away. A lot of people, I think that they're waiting for that buy and burn just so they can sell. I don't think the participation has turned around, not yet, but just closing out on the Ethereum stuff, I could absolutely see Ethereum going to $10,000 or $15,000, which, if you consider inflation, is like a 2x from the last all-time high. So even if you consider diminishing returns, given the massive wave of kind of adoption that's coming in, in terms of financial adoption, it's absolutely doable, okay? So that's kind of the first thing, right, is Ethereum, and just how far it can run, very far. So don't discount that element to this. Now the next bit is DragonX, right? Because DragonX it's a derivative on DragonX. And if TitanX doesn't perform, then DragonX probably doesn't reach its maximum potential. But TitanX has this massive, buy and burn, right? It has 20 million at the current price, the buy and burn. So if we get a doubling of the price to 8,000 or 9,000, now you're looking at a $40 million buy and burn there. And that buy and burn, by the way, you don't need to use all of it to create a catalyst for the next run. So you could have, say, 10% or 20% of that used, which would be $4 to $8 million. Okay, and that would be the price. Like if you assumed that there was just a straight market buy there, it'd be like a 9 to 10x, for every like 4 million that went in. But if you assume some selling pressure, maybe you get a 7 to 10x or 7 to 9x. And as you've seen, historically, DragonX does a 10x. It does 10x the performance of TitanX. I don't think that buy and burn is all that's coming for TitanX either, right? You have a couple of big protocols that are built on top of TitanX, established protocols now, guys. Like the first build on TitanX kind of wave had a lot of low effort tokens. It had a lot of tokens with founders that weren't dedicated to those tokens. Okay, but we're kind of past that now, right? You had that explosion, that Cambrian explosion, and then the survivors kind of persisted through that. Okay, so you had Titan Farms, came out of that, huge success, 40 million TVL at the top, processing 1% of all Ethereum volume, which is wild, right? That is a wildly successful DeFi protocol by any measure. There are huge, basically, VC-funded projects. They raised tens of millions of dollars, like Arcadia Finance, which just got hacked, by the way. And they don't even reach that level of TVL. And we did it, Dragon team did that with no funding, okay, totally self-funded. And we reached 40 million TVL within the TitanX ecosystem. Think about that, You've got protocols being hacked and destroyed all around us. We've had rug pulls even within TitanX. And here's Titan Farms just chugging away, right? And DragonX are just chugging away. So you've got Titan Farms, you've got DragonX, okay? Those are two big, strong platforms. You've got Taurus, which just came out and has, a great founder, and I think is going to do very well. And then you have ORX, right? Ouroboros. So ORX is an absolute killer. I love this protocol. Super Shadowy is a good friend of mine, and I'm really excited. I mean, it was actually, it was getting near the same market cap as DragonX, which is fantastic. Imagine having two protocols above 10 million in market cap built on TitanX. That's a huge sign that there's something here, right? That protocol has tens of millions of dollars locked, right? Including DragonX. I think it has like 7.8% of the DragonX supply or something like that. I think I have the number down here actually. It has 10.93% of the entire DragonX supply locked in there. So that's a very promising protocol, and there's more being built on top of that every day, right? There's a couple new protocols coming out that are built on top of it. I think he's going to be expanding it to basically encompass new ecosystems. So that's fantastic. Okay, so you have three really solid protocols, and then Taurus is the up-and-coming protocol, the challenger that's brand new. Okay? Now, that's all before we get a return by Jake. Personally, I don't think Jake is going to be gone. I don't think that's happened. I think Jake is cooking. He might have changed his plans. Maybe that's why it's taking him so long, or maybe he's just busy with other things. We were giving, how Jake operates. He's probably trying to time the market a little bit. So there is that element as well. So we've got 5 protocols, with the 5th potentially being the new one, right? That would be launched by Jake. Okay, and that one could be the time when the catalyst of the buy and burns come in. So if you have say 7 to 10x in TitanX and new utility coming in, that could bring TitanX up 20x, pretty fast, especially if we're in that hot altcoin season. So that's an important consideration. TitanX alone could very quickly do a 20x, say around the fall as the interest rate cuts start coming in, as retail has more money to play with. And so I could definitely see that playing out where TitanX does like a 20x, right? And the protocols that are built on top of it just help to accelerate that. Okay, so that's TitanX, right? So we're talking about like a 20x in TitanX. And by the way, there's another protocol launching called Ascendant. And Ascendant is building, a new lending platform that is similar to Morpho, that has a ton of awesome features and will allow for the lending of a bunch of different protocols, including DragonX. And that's fantastic for the ecosystem because it's another way for people to exit without selling. So we have all of these different ways of people to exiting without selling. Plus we have all of this buy and burn. And if you look at the supply that's remaining on the really, really top quality coins, right, like DragonX, TitanX, ORX, you're looking at like, in the case of TitanX, 30% of the entire supply remaining. ORX, I don't actually have the number. I'm not sure what it is, but it's probably decent because there is a significant buy and burn there. And then you have DragonX, which, DragonX just did its like first halving. So it basically 50% of the supply is now out of circulation. Okay, I have the numbers right here. I'm just looking at them. Like 27% has been fully burned. It's gone forever. The buy and burn's taken care of it. Ouroboros has 11%. Hydra has 8%. And then 6% is locked in LP. So that's over 50% is basically out of circulation. DragonX has its own buy and burn as well, both for TitanX and DragonX. So if you think that TitanX can do a 10 to 20x on its own, well, what if we add another 2 million in buy pressure, buy and stake to TitanX, excuse me. That's another, maybe 2 to 5x on top. So you've got yet another catalyst for TitanX, which further buoys DragonX, okay? Now on the DragonX side, you have the DragonX buy and burn. Okay, the DragonX buy and burn is about $2 million at current prices. So imagine it being twice as big, right? And we have a liquidity pool of about 1 million. So, that could be another 10x right there just from those payouts. So that's a 10x on top of the potential 10x as the TitanX. Let's just say because the liquidity is a little bit thicker now, we don't do a full 10x on whenever TitanX does a 10x, right? Maybe we do a 5x. So in that case, TitanX does a 20 or 30x and we do a 10x, right? Just on bonding, okay? So if that's the case, then an additional 5x or 10x on top of that is quite possible given the buy and burn. So now we're looking at, a 50 to 100x in DragonX, which sounds crazy, but if you consider how low the liquidity is, it's really not that crazy. It's feasible. It's definitely feasible. It's not financial advice, but if you just look at past performance, you could potentially come to that conclusion, right? Now, one thing that's missing from the equation, if you listen this long, congratulations, I'm actually building new utility for DragonX, right? Inside the mastermind, we've been discussing some of the best ways to open up new utility for DragonX, and there are some custom products that we're building around Dragon. Some may never hit the market. They may be exclusively for mastermind. But there is one that we are building that will be hitting the market. So we do have a plan to have a protocol that will actually allow people to earn DragonX, okay, by providing TVL into a platform. So that's a little bit of alpha for you because you listened for 14 minutes. But that's potentially coming next for DragonX. So factoring all of that in, I can absolutely see a 50 to 100x happening in DragonX. Could be more, could be 200x. Joe Paris just did a video and he put us in the 1000x category. When it comes down to something like 1000x, to be honest with you, it's possible because the liquidity is so low and all you need is more adoption, right? So let's say some of the big YouTubers that are circling DragonX and TitanX start to come around and they start to do victory laps as TitanX goes up, right? And they start to actually talk about the protocol. Why are they talking about the protocol? Because it makes them look good. They're not going to talk about it when it's down. That's just the reality of the game, right? They don't want to talk about a protocol and then people go look at the chart and they say that this guy can't call coins because that's their job. It's their job to call coins, right? So you can't expect them to be necessarily the loudest people when things aren't going that well, and that's totally fine, right? But when things are going good, they have a reason to talk about it, right? Because they can do a victory lap. People who have hundreds of thousands of followers who are waiting to do that victory lap for DragonX and TitanX. Okay, so if you factor that in, that changes the equation completely, right? And so maybe that's where Joe Paris is getting that 1000x number, because he's the kind of guy that can bring in 10,000 users. Okay, and we've only ever had 4,000 users in DragonX and we've done 100x. So that adoption element is something that it goes beyond even the power of the utility and the power of the buy and burns, because ultimately the real power is in adoption and the real power is in marketing. That is 90% of the game. Okay, these builds are great. They set us up for success, but it's that marketing element. That part really changes the game for us. And that's where you could get, 100x plus, 200x. And I mean, Joe thinks we can do 1000x. It's within the realm of possibility. Absolutely within the realm of possibility. Is it something I would bet my house on? Is it something I'd bet my child's college tuition on? No, absolutely not. But if you're talking about a coin that has a 10 million market cap, or right now I think we're at 15 million market cap, it's 100x to 1.5 billion. And in the bull market, when you're going from 3 trillion total market cap of crypto to 30 trillion, a lot of things are going to do 10s and 100x's. You're going to have a lot of tokens over a billion, a lot of small tokens. So getting that adoption nailed down could really do some crazy numbers. And when you have that supply shock, it makes it a lot easier because the price it's a lot more buoyant, because it's harder and harder for sellers to get in there and to push the price down when the tokens are disappearing. DragonX has no inflation, right? There's no inflation in the project. So it's really tough. Once you've lost your coins, you've lost them for good. If all you ever did was sit on your DragonX, you have basically 50% more than what you did at the beginning, because the supply has vanished by 50%. So your position in the entire protocol and in the ecosystem has increased. And I don't think people are seeing all these catalysts coming together, right? You have potentially a new build from Jake. You have all of these top-tier protocols building on Titan X. You have Ethereum becoming an institutional asset. And all of these things are going to culminate at some point, right? And that culmination is also going to have a bunch of bullish things for DragonX. New utility, buy and burns, and adoption. And that's ultimately what you need to do those hundreds of X's, okay? DragonX is actually in pretty rare air, guys. Not a lot of protocols go down by, what did we drop by in going down into April? 85, 90%? Okay, we did 100x. Most protocols never do 100x, okay? But for a protocol to recover and do another 100x, that's extremely rare. I would say there's probably less than 200 coins that have ever done that, guys. 200 coins in the history of crypto. 200 to 300 max. I couldn't imagine it can be more than that. And you're talking about an ecosystem in crypto where tens of thousands of coins are being created. Thousands of coins are being created per month. Okay, and you've got DragonX here with a tiny audience, with just me, and we're doing things that very few other cryptos have ever done in the history of crypto. We've been extremely secure this entire time. We've had tens of millions in TVL on our stuff, and we've never been hacked. Elite teams are getting their stuff hacked, guys, and we're not getting hacked. DragonX team is top tier, absolutely top tier. Okay, very few teams can operate the way we've operated. And just to shout out the community for a second, we have incredibly iron-handed holders. I believe that it's part of the ethos of DragonX to be hard to kill. And we really have embodied that. If you look at the actual number of sells over the course of this dumping period in April, there weren't actually that many sells. The whales didn't really move, guys. Like, even if you take out all the coins that have been removed by other means, protocols and buy and burn, there's probably another 20% of the supply, that is just in hands of people who are here to see this project through. And they're not trying to run away and dump at the first sight of a buy and burn. And so it's just extremely bullish for DragonX, guys. So you're going to see a big supply squeeze, probably as altcoins run. At some point, there will be a parabolic bull market. The question is really when. And there's one final thing that I think people are missing, and that is that DragonX is going to get to reload. DragonX is getting another probably 700 to 800 Ethereum on April 1st. Isn't that great? It's almost like the buy and burn we have now is just a prelude to that next one, right? Which can continue to perpetuate the protocol out into the future. Okay, so if you think the game is over once this buy and burn turns on and the DAO launches, you're mistaken, because we have that even larger buy and burn that's coming. And imagine if Ethereum's double or triple the price. Now you're talking about $7-8 million of new buy and burn that can be there to support DragonX. Okay, DragonX is no joke, guys. And as protocols die and get hacked around us, we will continue to be that protocol that is a store of value, a DeFi-based store of value. And these founders, man, they have these charts that are like, Wow, it's all green candles for like 3 weeks. And then you look at the liquidity, it's like 5K in liquidity. And who cares, man? That's pointless. Okay, we've got 1.2 million in liquidity. I think we have more in liquidity today. 1.5, just checked. Okay? And we have probably about 10 million in buy pressure coming in to burn and push up the price for holders and eliminate supply. Okay, on top of everything else that I've described. So really, to compare this protocol to any other protocol from some founder with some PvP who's throwing coins out there and saying, look how great I am, because I created a chart that has like some green candles for a couple weeks is a joke, okay? If we had more followers, DragonX would be one of the top DeFi tokens ever created. Our only problem is marketing. I guarantee you that, okay? So that's 20 minutes, guys. I hope you appreciate this update. I gave you what you wanted. Thank you for subscribing, by the way. We're at 1,000 subs. I think we're such an undervalued ecosystem, to be honest with you. But we got to that 1,000 subs, and I want to thank you guys for subscribing. If you haven't done that, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Again, it's just a sign that we're in rare air where we have now a YouTube channel, and only about 10% of YouTube channels even get to 1,000 subscribers, and here we are. And it wasn't that hard, right? So, it's the beginning of something great, guys. And I just want to say thank you again. Thanks for hanging in there. And the future looks really bright for DragonX. So yeah, stick around. Please press the like to this video. And if you guys are interested in my mastermind, we're doing awesome stuff inside. People are very happy. And we've got custom builds. We've got dedicated micro analysts. We're building new stuff for TitanX. And I'm advising projects inside for TitanX. So there's a lot of great stuff happening. And if you want to be part of that, there should be a link in the video description below for that as well. But hey guys, enjoy your summer. Things have been a little bit slow, It's August, people are chilling, but this fall should be pretty hot. So looking forward to it. See you guys. Bye-bye.